The stars were Ilara's lullaby. Not the distant pinprick diamonds that glittered through the colossal transparasteel domes of Athelberg, her home, but the ones that swam behind her eyelids, shimmering constellations she'd never seen charted on any stellar map. Every night, as Athelberg, the grandest orbital habitat in the sector, completed another slow orbit around the gas giant Kepler 186 LL, Ilara would prepare for her journey. Her room was a sanctuary of soft glows and gentle hums. Bioluminescent mosses clung to the curved walls, casting patterns of emerald and sapphire light, mirroring the vibrant living gardens that thrived in Athelberg's lower biospheres. A tiny, spherical AI companion, Lumi, floated beside her bed, its single optical sensor glowing a warm, reassuring gold. Reassuring gold. Ready for tonight, Ilara. Lumi's voice was a soft chime, imbued with just enough personality to feel like a true friend. Ilara, perched on the edge of her cloud-soft bed, nodded, her dark hair, usually a wild cascade of curls, pulled back in a loose braid. Always, Lumi, what wonders await? Lumi projected a swirling helix of faint rainbow-hued light onto the ceiling, a common pre-sleep ritual that helps prepare the mind for the Somni Weaver. The usual cosmic currents, I suspect, perhaps a new nebula to explore within your subconscious. Ilara smiled, a familiar thrill fluttering in her chest. Her Somni Weaver wasn't just any dream inducer. It was an ancient, handcrafted device, passed down through generations of her mother's family, an antique even by Athelberg's standards. It looked like a delicate silver circlet, adorned with polished moonstones that pulsed with a faint inner light. Most children use standard Nora interface sleep systems, designed to ensure restful, thought-free slumber. But Ilara's Somni Weaver was different. It didn't suppress her thoughts, it amplified them, guiding her subconscious through intricate, vivid landscapes. And for Ilara, these landscapes were always, without fail, bathed in starlight. She gently placed the circlet onto her forehead. The moonstones hummed, sending a tingling warmth through her scalp. The bioluminescent mosses in her room seemed to brighten in response, and Lumi's golden eyes softened to a gentle amber. "Good night, Ilara," Lumi whispered, its projection of the helix fading into a field of tranquil rotating stars. "May your dreams be boundless." Ilara closed her eyes. The gentle hum of the Somni Weaver deepened, a resonant thrumming that felt like the very heartbeat of the cosmos. Instantly, the familiar darkness behind her eyelids dissolved, replaced by a swirling vortex of light. It wasn't a jarring transition, but a seamless drift, like falling into a cloud made of pure wonder. She wasn't sleeping, not exactly. It was more like an awakening within a different reality. She was light, formless, yet acutely aware. Around her, the universe unfurled. Not the sterile, observed universe seen through transparasteel, but a living, breathing tapestry of nebulae and galaxies. This was her Stardust dream. Tonight, the dream began as it often did. A slow drift through a vast, glittering cloud. This wasn't a nebula of gas and dust as her father, Captain Caelan Thorne, the renowned astronavigator, would describe. This was a cloud of stardust, real, tangible stardust, each particle a miniature galaxy, winking with untold stories. It shimmered with impossible colors, iridescent golds, deep cosmic blues, and purples that seemed to vibrate with ancient energy. As she drifted, she could feel the faint caress of these dream particles against her awareness, a gentle tickle that sang of distant suns and forgotten worlds. She could almost taste the starlight, a sweetness, like honey infused with ozone and the scent of blooming night jasmine. This was her secret garden, her private universe, woven by the Somni Weaver from the deepest corners of her mind, and something else. Something that felt older than Athelberg, older than the starship her father commanded, older than even the grand gas giant Kepler 186 AFT. The stardust began to coalesce, drawing her gently towards a focal point. A familiar sensation of being pulled, not forcefully, but with an irresistible tenderness, guided her through the sparkling expanse. She knew this journey. It always led her to the same place, the heart of her stardust dream. The swirling dust thinned, revealing a horizon. Not a planetary horizon, but a vast undulating expanse of luminous gas, a nebula unlike any catalogued. It pulsed with a soft, rhythmic glow, like a cosmic heart. And nestled within its vibrant embrace, a cluster of stars, unique and profoundly beautiful. One star, in particular, always drew her attention. It was a binary system, two suns locked in an eternal, graceful dance. One was a brilliant, sapphire-white star, radiating an intense, pure light. The other, a smaller, ruby-red dwarf, pulsed with a deep, resonant warmth. As she approached, the dream allowed her to feel their heat, their light, their gravitational pull. But it wasn't just the stars that captivated her. Orbiting the ruby dwarf was a planet. Not a planet she could land on or even fully perceive, but a faint ethereal presence. It was shrouded in a delicate shimmering veil, like spun moonlight. And from this veiled world, a whisper. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, but a resonance within her very core. A gentle, undulating frequency that spoke of longing, of patience, of an ancient, waiting presence. It was a melody without notes, a poem without words, a feeling of profound connection. Sometimes she would see fleeting images on the veil of the planet, intricate patterns, like fractals of light, or the faint outline of structures that seemed to grow organically from the planetary surface. They were too fleeting, too indistinct to truly grasp, but they filled her with an aching curiosity. What was on that world? Who was sending this whisper? Tonight, the whisper felt stronger. It wasn't just a resonance, it was almost a call. A gentle urgency, a beckoning. The sapphire star seemed to pulse brighter, and the ruby dwarf glowed with a renewed passionate warmth. Elara felt herself drawn closer, the boundary between her dreaming self and this astral reality blurring. She stretched out her consciousness, an invisible hand reaching through the sparkling void towards the veiled planet. She yearned to touch it, to understand the whisper. Just as her awareness brushed against the shimmering veil, a sudden unfamiliar sensation jolted through her. Not fear, but surprise. A subtle ripple through the stardust, a momentary distortion in the cosmic ballet of the binary stars. Then, a flicker. A single distinct flash of light not from the stars, but from all within, the veiled planet itself. It was brief like a camera shutter, but it left an imprint on her awareness. It wasn't a natural phenomenon, it felt intentional, a response. The whisper intensified, morphing into a clearer, though still wordless, message. It felt like recognition, as if the veiled world knew she was there, reaching out. Then, a sound. A soft, almost imperceptible clicking. It wasn't part of the dream. It was external. Elara's eyes snapped open. She was back in her room, the bioluminescent mosses still glowing softly. Lumi floated silently by her bed, its golden eye now a steady, placid amber. The Somniweaver circlet was still on her forehead, faintly humming. The clicking sound came again. It was the door to her room, gently opening. Her mother, Dr. Aris Thorne, peered in, a slender figure with eyes as deep and intelligent as the cosmos Elara had just left. Her dark hair was streaked with silver, catching the soft light. Aris, a xenobotanist, specializing in astrobotany, the study of flora on other worlds, moved with a quiet grace, her white lab coat almost glowing in the dimness. Elara, are you awake, my little star sleeper? Aris's voice was as soft as a nebula's breath. Elara pushed herself up, pulling the Somniweaver from her head. The warmth lingered. Mama, I think something happened in my dream. Aris sat on the edge of the bed, her hand gently brushing Elara's forehead. Did it now? Was it a new constellation, or did you finally find the cosmic bloom you've been searching for? Her mother always understood, not just her words, but the deeper meaning behind them. Aris herself possessed an innate sensitivity to the subtle energies of life, whether it was the delicate root systems of Athelberg's gravity-defying sky gardens, or the faint biosignatures of exoplanetary flora. It was the veiled planet, Mama, Elara said, her voice still laced with the wonder of the dream. The one in the binary system. It flashed, and the whisper felt different. It felt like it knew I was there. Aris's expression shifted, a subtle tightening around her eyes, A flicker of something that looked like recognition, or perhaps a shared secret. A flash, you say, she murmured, more to herself than to Ilara. She reached for the Somniweaver, her fingers tracing the polished moonstones. This old thing, it truly has a mind of its own, doesn't it? It felt so real, Mama, Ilara insisted, her heart still thrumming with the dream's resonance. Like it was responding to me. Aris gave her a warm, knowing smile. Dreams are often more real than we give them credit for, my love. They are the mind's way of exploring possibilities, of connecting with the deeper currents of the universe. She paused, her gaze drifting towards the transparisteel dome where the true stars glittered. Sometimes, they are even more than that. Just then the door slid open again, and Ilara's father, Captain Kalen Thorne, stepped into the room. Kalen was a man forged from the vastness of space, his presence commanding yet gentle. His uniform, though perfectly tailored, often bore the faint scent of ozone and distant stars, a testament to his frequent deep space missions. His eyes, the color of deep space, held a similar knowing look to Aris's. "My two favorite stargazers," he said, his voice a low, comforting rumble. He walked over and ruffled Ilara's hair, then kissed Aris's forehead. "Troubled dreams, little one?" "Not troubled, Papa," Ilara corrected. "Just vivid, the veiled planet," it flashed. Kalen exchanged a quick glance with Aris, a silent communication passing between them. A tiny, almost imperceptible nod from Aris seemed to confirm something for him. He sat on the other side of Ilara's bed, his strong hand resting reassuringly on her arm. "A flash, you say?" Kalen repeated, his voice thoughtful. "That's interesting." He paused, his gaze fixed on Ilara, a blend of paternal affection and scientific curiosity in his eyes. "You know, Ilara, your Somniweaver is quite a unique piece of tech. Your great-grandmother, the one who first brought it into our family, was a pioneer in what they called sub-etheric resonance, a fascinating, if somewhat fringe, field." Ilara remembered hearing stories of her great-grandmother, a brilliant but eccentric scientist who believed that consciousness itself was a form of energy that could interact with the fabric of spacetime. She believed that certain minds, particularly those attuned to the subtle energies of the cosmos, could, under the right conditions, perceive things beyond the normal range of sensory input. "And your dreams, my love, have always been exceptionally vivid. But a flash?" Ilara pressed. "Does that mean it's real? That there's really a planet there, and it knows I'm dreaming of it?" Kalen smiled, a slow, tender smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "What is real, Ilara, is a thought not real, an emotion. What if the universe is far more interconnected than our instruments can detect? Your great-grandmother certainly thought so." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "And your mother and I, well, we've been working on something that might just tie into your unique connection." Ilara's eyes widened. "Really? What is it?" Aris took her husband's hand, a small, excited squeeze. "You know my work with xenobotanical signatures, Ilara. The way life leaves an imprint, a unique energetic fingerprint, even across vast distances." Ilara nodded. Her mother had often shown her holographic projections of these biosignatures, intricate patterns of light and energy that spoke of alien flora. "And you know my father's work," Kalen continued, charting the deepest reaches of uncharted space, looking for anomalies, for places where the fabric of reality might be thinner. "We've been cross-referencing our data," Aris explained, her voice gaining a quiet intensity. "Looking for patterns, for echoes, and a few cycles ago, Kalen's deep space probes picked up a very faint, almost undetectable subetheric resonance, a unique frequency pattern, unlike anything we've ever encountered. At first, we thought it was just cosmic background noise, or a new type of stellar anomaly," Kalen added. "But then, Aris ran her biosignature analysis on it, and it registered a faint, but distinct biological signature." Ilara gasped. "A biological signature? From where?" Aris smiled, a glint of pure scientific wonder in her eyes. "From an uncatalogued binary system, Ilara. A system with a sapphire white star and a ruby red dwarf." Ilara's breath hitched. her binary stars, her veiled planet. And the resonance, Caelan continued, his voice barely above a whisper. It's incredibly subtle, almost like a whisper across the void, but it's there, and it has a distinct rhythmic pulse, a pattern, a pan that, when filtered through the right algorithms, seems to mimic a frequency that, coincidentally, your Somniweaver seems particularly adept at processing. Lumi, which had been quietly observing, suddenly chimed. Analysis of Ilara's recent Somniweaver data indicates a significant increase in neural synchronicity with a previously unclassified subetheric frequency during the most recent dream cycle. Probability of direct energetic interaction, 87.3%. Ilara stared at Lumi, then at her parents. So, you mean my dream isn't just a dream? Caelan reached out and gently squeezed her hand. It's very possible, Ilara. We believe your Somniweaver, combined with your unique sensitivity, is acting as a kind of receiver. And the flash you saw tonight, Aris added, her eyes gleaming with excitement, that could be a response, as if something on that world sensed your presence, your consciousness reaching out across the light years. The quiet hum of Ethelberg, the soft glow of the mosses, the very air in the room suddenly felt charged with a new, profound possibility. Ilara's Stardust dreams weren't just nocturnal adventures, they were a bridge to an unknown world, a whispered conversation across the vastness of space. But, what kind of world is it? Ilara asked, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. And what is whispering to me? Caelan and Aris exchanged another look, a shared understanding passing between them. That, Caelan said, his eyes reflecting the distant stars, is what we intend to find out. Your mother and I have been preparing a new deep space exploration vessel, a smaller, more agile scout ship designed for precisely this kind of uncharted journey. We've been calling it the Stardust Seeker, Aris added, her voice soft. And we believe, Ilara, that your dreams are guiding us to its destination. Ilara looked from her mother to her father, then back to the quiet, glowing Somniweaver on her bed. The ancient circlet, with its polished moonstones, seemed to pulse with a renewed mysterious light. Her dreams, the whispers, the veiled planet, the binary stars. They were no longer just fantasies. They were coordinates, a destination, a calling. And suddenly, the universe, which had always felt vast and wondrous, now felt intimately connected, waiting for her to answer its silent, sparkling invitation. The quiet hum of the Somniweaver filled Ilara's room, a gentle counterpoint to the thunderous beat of her own heart. The moonstones in the ancient circlet on her head now glowed with a soft, persistent warmth, a silent affirmation of the universe's whispered promise. She traced the delicate silverwork of the circlet, feeling the smooth, cool stones beneath her fingertips. They weren't just decorative, they felt alive, resonating with something deep inside her. Coordinates, she murmured, the word feeling both impossible and utterly right. She looked at her parents again, their faces etched with the familiar love and concern she knew so well. They saw only their daughter, a child on the cusp of adolescence, dreaming big dreams. They didn't see the cosmic map unfolding in her mind, the specific, shimmering location that had been etched into her consciousness. She slipped the circlet off, its light dimming slightly as it left her skin, and placed it carefully on her bedside table. It was too much to process all at once. The binary stars, a veiled planet, they weren't just pretty images anymore. They were real. And the Somniweaver, which had always been a tool for restful vivid dreams, had become something else entirely, a conduit, a receiver, perhaps even a transmitter. The next morning the world felt sharper, more vibrant. The usual breakfast of nutrient-dense synth fruit and aero grains tasted of anticipation. Her parents, perceptive as ever, noticed her quiet intensity. "Everything all right, Starlight?" her mother, Lyra, asked, reaching across the holographic table to squeeze her hand. Her father, Cale, nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Ilara hesitated. "How do you explain that your dreams have given you a galactic treasure map? That a piece of ancient jewelry feels like a key to a universal lock?" I I had a really vivid dream last night, she began, choosing her words carefully. About the circlet and the Somni Weaver. It felt important. Her parents exchanged a look. The circlet is a family heirloom, Elara, Kale said gently. It's beautiful, and it's full of stories, but it's just that. An heirloom. But it glowed, Elara insisted, her voice barely a whisper. And the Somni Weaver, it showed me things, a planet, a veiled planet orbiting binary stars, and I felt like it was calling to me. Lyra smiled, a soft, understanding smile. Dreams can feel incredibly real, sweetie, especially with the Somni Weaver enhancing them. It's designed to bring out your deepest subconscious thoughts and desires. But what if it's more than that? Elara pressed, her frustration growing. What if it's showing me something revealing, something out there? She knew it sounded fanciful, even to her own ears. But the feeling was undeniable. The coordinates were etched in her mind with the clarity of a star chart. Over the next few days, Elara couldn't shake the sensation. Every night, she wore the circlet, activating the Somni Weaver, and every night, the veiled planet and its binary suns pulsed in her mind, clearer, more insistent. She started spending hours in the family's databanks, a vast interconnected network of galactic knowledge. She searched for binary stars, veiled planets, ancient civilizations, unexplored regions. The circlet, when she wore it, seemed to subtly guide her searches. Her fingers, hovering over the holographic keyboard, would drift towards obscure astronomical logs, forgotten archaeological reports, even old discredited theories of cosmic resonance. It was as if the circlet was not just a receiver, but an interface, translating her subconscious quest into concrete digital pathways. One evening, deep within an archive of pre-consolidation star charts, she found a flicker. A notation, almost entirely faded, referencing a binary star system designated in Lyra 7 Bedtime. The Lyra caught her attention, her mother's name and a constellation. The accompanying text was fragmented, hinting at an anomaly, a gravimetric veil surrounding a single planet within the system, making it undetectable by conventional long-range scans. The entry was marked as unverified and low priority, eventually abandoned. Elara's heart hammered. Lyra, 7 Beta. That felt right. The coordinates, the visual, the AA calling, it all clicked. The circlet, resting on her brow, pulsed with a renewed intensity, a warm thrumming that resonated deep within her bones. She finally approached her parents again, this time with a printout of the faded star chart and the circlet glowing gently on her head. I found it, she announced, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The veiled planet, it's called Lyra 7 Beta, and it's real. Lyra and Kale examined the data, their expressions shifting from gentle skepticism to dawning wonder. The circlet, sensing their focus, intensified its glow, casting soft shifting patterns on their faces. A gravimetric veil, Kale murmured, his scientific mind intrigued despite himself. That's highly unusual. And this data is ancient. It's like the circlet Aknu, Elara said, holding up her hand, letting the circlet's light play across the faded text. It guided me. Her mother, usually the more pragmatic of the two, touched the circlet. It does feel warm, she admitted, her eyes distant. My grandmother, your great-grandmother, used to tell stories about this circlet. She said it was a dreamweaver for our family, that it helped us connect to our deepest selves, to the song of the universe. Maybe it's more than just a song, Elara whispered. Maybe it's a message. The conversation that followed was long and earnest. Elara spoke of the insistent whispers, the feeling of destiny, the profound sense of connection she felt to this distant, hidden world. Her parents, seeing the conviction in her eyes, the undeniable evidence of the circlet's strange activity, and the obscure data she had unearthed, began to consider the unthinkable. Their daughter wasn't just having vivid dreams, she was receiving a directive. If this planet is truly veiled, Kale mused, pacing the room, it means no one has been able to reach it with our current technology, or at least not successfully. Any ship attempting to penetrate a gravimetric veil without precise calibration would likely be torn apart. But what if the circlet is the calibration? Elara suggested, her mind racing. What if it's not just showing me the way, but also how to get there? The idea was audacious, bordering on fantastical. Yet, the circlet continued its soft, persistent glow, as if nodding in agreement. Her parents, both brilliant scientists in their own right, Lyra, a xenobotanist, Kale, a stellar cartographer, began to see the scientific merit in Elara's dream. If the circlet truly possessed some unknown property, some way to interact with the veil, it could be a discovery of monumental proportions. But the danger. "You're too young, Elara," Lyra said, her voice laced with fear. "Space is vast and unforgiving. This isn't a game." "I know, Mama," Elara replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "But I feel it so strongly. It's like my purpose. And the circlet feels like it was ready for this." She held up the circlet, and for a moment, it pulsed with such brilliance that it seemed to outshine the room's ambient light. Eventually, swayed by Elara's unwavering conviction and the undeniable mystery surrounding the circlet, her parents agreed to help her, but not to send her alone into the unknown. They would prepare. They would research. And if a journey was to be made, it would be a family endeavor. The next few months were a blur of intense activity. Their home, usually a haven of quiet contemplation, transformed into a mini research hub. Kale, using his vast network of contacts in the Galactic Cartography Bureau, discreetly accessed more advanced, classified databases, searching for any further mention of meter or similar veiled phenomena. Lyra, with her knowledge of ancient biological and geological markers, theorized about what kind of life might exist on such a secluded world. Elara, always wearing the circlet, became the central interface. She would sit in their home's advanced simulation chamber, the Somniweaver projected around her, and the circlet would hum, guiding her through intricate navigational calculations, theoretical veil penetration schematics, and forgotten energy signatures. It was as if the circlet was downloading knowledge directly into her mind, not just dreams but operational data. She learned about graviton fields, subspace distortions, exotic matter, and the delicate art of piloting through unpredictable cosmic phenomena. They discovered that the circlet wasn't merely an amplifier, it was a key. It seemed to resonate with a specific, extremely rare energy signature, one that matched the faint, ancient readings associated with Lyra 7 Beta. It was a symbiotic relationship. The circlet received the calling, and Elara, through her unique connection, was its vessel. The biggest hurdle was finding a suitable vessel. A ship capable of deep space travel, equipped for research, and, most importantly, adaptable to the circlet's unique navigational requirements. Standard starships were designed for predictable jumps through established hyperspace lanes. This mission required something different. Kale, remembering an old semi-mythical research vessel from his academy days, began to make inquiries. The Stardust Serenading, a prototype exploratory craft, had been decommissioned decades ago, deemed too unconventional for mass production. It was built with an experimental variable geometry warp drive and a unique, highly sensitive sensor array, designed for venturing into uncharted territories and navigating unstable cosmic phenomena. It was exactly what they needed. With some clever maneuvering and a little help from a few old, eccentric colleagues, Kale managed to secure the Serenade for private research. The Stardust Serenading was magnificent. Sleek, silver, and adorned with delicate, almost ethereal curves, it looked less like a machine and more like a work of art. Its bridge was a panorama of reinforced transparent steel, offering an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Inside, it was a marvel of adaptive technology. The central console, a shimmering holographic display, could be reconfigured for any task. Over the next few months they worked tirelessly, retrofitting the Serenade. The circlet became an integral part of the ship's navigation system. Elara, wearing it, would interface directly with the ship's core, her mind guiding the subtle modifications needed to attune the vessel to the specific energy signature of the veil. It was a painstaking process, requiring immense focus and a deep trust in the circlet's mysterious guidance. Lyra installed advanced xenobotanical labs, a fully stocked bioscanner array, and a sophisticated atmospheric analysis suite. Kale fine-tuned the experimental warp drive, ensuring it could handle the stresses of potential veil penetration, and upgraded the defensive shields. Finally, the day of departure arrived. The Stardust Serenading sat gleaming on their private launch pad, a silent testament to months of tireless work and unwavering belief. Elara stood between her parents, her small backpack slung over her shoulder, the circlet cool and comforting on her brow. The Somni Weaver was packed safely away, its role in awakening her calling complete, its new role as a dream recorder for their journey about to begin. "Are you sure about this, Starlight?" Lyra asked, her voice thick with emotion, tears glistening in her eyes. "There's still time to reconsider." Elara looked up at the vast stardusted sky, already feeling the pull of the distant binary system. "I've never been more sure, Mama. This is where I meant to go." Kale embraced her tightly, a rare show of raw emotion from the usually stoic scientist. "We'll be with you every step of the way, Elara. Remotely, of course, but our sensors will be linked, our advice ready." With one last hug, Elara ascended the ramp into the Stardust Serenade. The interior hummed with latent power, a living thing waiting for its pilot. She settled into the command chair, the circlet glowing steadily. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing the launch sequence. "Pre-flight checks complete," announced the ship's AI, a soothing, gender-neutral voice named Aether. "All systems nominal, ready for launch." Elara took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and a touch of fear. This was it. No more dreams. This was real. Aether, initiate launch sequence. Destination: Lyra 7 Beta. The ship vibrated beneath her, a gentle rumble growing into a powerful surge. She felt the familiar G-forces as the AI's aeronaut lifted smoothly from the pad, piercing the planetary atmosphere with ease. Below, her homeworld, a shimmering sapphire, began to recede, becoming a jewel in the velvet expanse. Soon, they were in the inky blackness of space, the stars a dazzling scattered dust of diamonds. Elara gazed out the transperisteel viewport, her hand resting on the circlet. It felt like an extension of herself, guiding her, an ancient compass pointing towards a destiny she was only just beginning to understand. Aether chimed, approaching hyperspace jump coordinates. "Engage jump drive," Elara commanded, her voice steady. The stars outside elongated into streaks of light, then coalesced into a tunnel of swirling colors. Hyperspace travel was always breathtaking, a kaleidoscope of impossibly vibrant hues and swirling energies. But this time, it felt different. The circlet pulsed rhythmically, a silent chant guiding them through the impossible distances, towards the coordinates it had whispered in her dreams. Days blurred into weeks as the Stardust Serenadine traversed the vast cosmic ocean. Elara spent hours monitoring the circlet's readings, cross-referencing them with the ship's advanced sensors. She practiced her piloting skills, running simulations of veil penetration, feeling the delicate dance of gravity and energy. Her parents, via quantum entanglement communicators, offered guidance and support, their voices a comforting presence across the light years. "Remember, Elara," Kale's voice echoed through the comms one morning, "the veil isn't just a barrier, it's an anomaly. We don't know what kind of energies you'll encounter. Be prepared for anything." "I will, Papa," she replied, her gaze fixed on the approaching starfield. They were nearing Lyra 7 Beta. The circlet's glow was almost constant now, a beacon in the quiet ship. Finally, Aether's voice broke the silence of the bridge. "Exiting hyperspace in T-10, 9, 8. Elara gripped the armrests of her chair, her heart thrumming. The tunnel of light collapsed, and the Stardust Serenadine burst back into real space. Before her lay a breathtaking sight. Two suns, one, a brilliant golden yellow, the other, a fiery crimson orange, danced in a cosmic waltz, bathing the surrounding space in a perpetual twilight of shifting hues. It was the binary system from her dreams, more magnificent than she could have ever imagined. And there, nestled between the two fiery giants, was the planet. It was indeed veiled. Not by clouds or nebulae, but by a shimmering, almost invisible curtain of energy, like gossamer woven from pure starlight. It pulsed faintly, a living, breathing barrier that distorted the light of the binary suns, making the planet itself appear indistinct, a tantalizing mystery. "We have arrived," Ether announced, its voice holding a hint of awe. "Scans indicate a gravimetric distortion field of unprecedented complexity. Standard penetration protocols are unfeasible." Ilara nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. This was it. The moment of truth. She reached up, touching the circlet. It blazed with a fierce, unwavering light, a silent command. "Aether," Ilara said, her voice filled with a quiet determination. "Initiate circlet-guided penetration protocol. Full power to shields. Prepare for atmospheric entry." The ship's systems whirred to life, the Stardust serenade positioning itself before the shimmering veil. Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the circuit's energy flow through her, connecting her to the ship, to the veil, to the veiled planet beyond. She felt a surge of ancient power, a whisper of untold knowledge. This was more than just a journey, it was an answering the silent, sparkling invitation. And she was ready. With a final, resolute breath, Ilara opened her eyes and steered the Stardust Serenity directly into the heart of the shimmering veil, into the unknown. The ship shuddered as it made contact, the light from the binary stars warping and twisting around them, but the circlet held steady, guiding them through the cosmic labyrinth towards the secrets waiting on the other side. What lay beyond the veil, what ancient purpose awaited her on Lyra 7 Beta, she couldn't yet say. But the calling had brought her this far, and she knew, with an unshakable certainty, that it would guide her to whatever came next. The initial shudder intensified, not violently, but as if the ship itself were breathing, expanding and contracting with the cosmic current. The viewport, moments ago a tapestry of warped binary starlight, dissolved into a swirling vortex of opalescent hues. It was like plunging into a nebula made of pure light, a painter's dreamscape rendered in 3 dimensions. Blues bled into purples, then ignited into fiery oranges and golds, only to cool again into impossible greens that shimmered with an inner luminescence. She gripped the armrests of her pilot's chair, not out of fear, but a profound, almost spiritual awe. The circlet on her brow pulsed with a soft, steady rhythm, mirroring the ship's navigation system, which, astonishingly, remained locked onto their trajectory despite the chaos outside. It wasn't just guiding them, it was stabilizing them, creating a pocket of calm within the storm. Her breath hitched. This was more than just a navigational beacon, it was a key, an anchor in the non-Euclidean currents of the veil. Time seemed to stretch and compress. Were they traveling for moments, or millennia? The concept lost meaning in this place where light bent and space folded. She felt a gentle tug, a sensation like being drawn through a silken thread, and then a sudden, almost imperceptible pop toward each her. The swirling colors vanished. The viewport snapped back to a crystal-clear display of stars, but not the stars she knew. This was a different tapestry, woven with unfamiliar constellations and nebulae like painted brushes against the velvet black. A gasp escaped her lips. Before them, dominating the celestial sphere, was a spiral galaxy, its arms unfurling like a cosmic pinwheel, studded with billions of suns, each a distant diamond. It wasn't Omnirai galaxy. It was a dwarf galaxy, smaller and more tightly wound, yet breathtakingly beautiful, its core glowing with a soft warm light that promised ancient secrets. They had traversed an intergalactic distance, or perhaps interdimensional, through that shimmering veil. The ship's sensors hummed, recalibrating to the new environment. "Jump complete," the ship's AI, a calm, synthesized voice she called Aura, announced. "New stellar cartography initiated, confirming destination, Lyra 7 Beta.Tor. Lyra 7 Beta.Ch." Her heart thrummed with anticipation. The target star system was nestled within one of the outer arms of this new galaxy, a solitary star, a gentle yellow dwarf, orbited by a handful of planets. And there, shining like a sapphire amongst emeralds, was Lyra 7 Beta. It was larger than she'd imagined, swathed in an atmosphere of swirling turquoise and deep sapphire. Rings, delicate and shimmering, encircled it, catching the distant starlight and scattering it into a million glittering dust motes. They weren't rocky rings, but something else, perhaps icy or even composed of crystalline structures. It looked utterly pristine, untouched by any conventional civilization. She engaged the thrusters, guiding her ship, the Stardust Wanderer, towards the radiant jewel. As they drew closer, the details of Lyra 7 Beta began to resolve. Vast oceans, impossibly deep and cerulean, covered much of its surface, punctuated by continents that glowed with a soft bioluminescent green. These landmasses weren't sharp and jagged. They were rounded, undulating, almost organic in their formation, crisscrossed by rivers of liquid light that pulsed rhythmically. The circlet on her brow pulsed with greater intensity now, a gentle warmth spreading across her forehead. It wasn't just guiding her to the planet but to a specific point. Aura projected a landing zone onto her main view screen, a large circular plateau on one of the larger continents, nestled between two towering crystalline mountains that pierced the upper atmosphere. The mountains themselves seemed to be alive, emitting a faint, resonant hum that even at this distance she could feel vibrating through the ship's hull. Atmospheric composition analysis complete, Aura reported. Breathable, high oxygen content, trace elements unknown. Planetary ecosystem appears entirely plant-based, no complex animal life detected in preliminary scans. Gravity 0.9 standard. No signs of technological infrastructure. No signs of technology. Yet, something had called her here. Something ancient and powerful enough to manifest a circlet that could traverse intergalactic distances. The contradiction hung in the air, a delicious mystery. She began the long, slow descent, the Stardust Wanderer slicing through the turquoise atmosphere like a silver needle. The rings, now seen up close, were indeed crystalline, vast fields of geometric ice formations, catching and refracting the distant sun's light into kaleidoscopic patterns that danced across the ship's hull. It was like flying through a cosmic art installation. As they dropped below the cloud layer, the bioluminescent green of the continents intensified. The rivers of light were clearer now, appearing to be actual waterways, but instead of water, they flowed with a luminous liquid that seemed to have a life of its own, branching and merging, like a vast, sentient circulatory system, across the planet's surface. The air outside, according to Aura, was filled with microscopic, shimmering motes of light, giving everything a soft, dreamlike glow. The landing plateau was perfectly flat, a circular expanse of what appeared to be polished obsidian, reflecting the sky above like a still, dark mirror. As the Stardust Wanderer settled gently onto its surface, a low thrum vibrated through the deck plates, a resonance that seemed to emanate from the planet itself. The hatch hissed open, releasing a breath of the planet's air into the ship. It was surprisingly cool, crisp, and carried a faint, sweet scent, like rain on ancient blossoms and fresh ozone. She took a deep breath, letting the unfamiliar aroma fill her lungs. Stepping out onto the obsidian landing pad, she felt the gentle pressure of Lyra 7 Beta's gravity. The air was soft against her skin, the pervasive shimmer of light motes making everything feel ethereal. The two crystalline mountains, now looming above her, pulsed with a slow, deep glow, their facets catching and scattering the light in a mesmerizing display. They weren't just mountains, they were colossal, natural formations of some unknown crystal, stretching impossibly high, their peaks veiled in soft clouds. The circlet on her brow pulsed steadily, guiding her gaze. At the center of the obsidian plateau, barely visible until now, was a faint indentation. It wasn't a crack or a natural flaw, it was a perfect circle, subtly different from the surrounding material. She walked towards it, her boots making no sound on the smooth surface. As she approached, the circlet's light intensified, casting a warm glow on the ground before her. The circular indentation began to glow in response, a faint, inner light emanating from within the obsidian. It wasn't a simple indentation, it was a seal, a hidden doorway. With a soft hum, the circlet projected a beam of light, not outwards, but downwards, directly onto the glowing circle. The obsidian shivered, then slowly, majestically, began to sink. Not in one piece, but as if it were a vast, perfectly machined piston. A gentle rush of air accompanied its descent, revealing a dark shaft, illuminated only by the faint light filtering in from above and the steady glow of the circlet. A path, carved from the same dark reflective material, spiraled downwards into the earth, disappearing into the depths. The air from below carried that same sweet, earthy scent, but now overlaid with something else, a faint metallic tang and a whisper of something ancient, something that hummed with latent power. Hesitation was a fleeting thought. The calling had brought her this far, and the circlet continued to pulse with unwavering certainty. She stepped onto the spiraling path. The descent was gradual, almost leisurely, as if the path itself were inviting her deeper. The walls of the shaft were perfectly smooth, reflecting the circlet's light, creating an illusion of infinite depth and endless mirrors. She wasn't alone. As she descended, faint glimmers of light began to appear on the walls, intricate patterns etched into the obsidian, glowing with a soft internal luminescence. They weren't random, they were symbols, glyphs she'd never seen before, yet they seemed to hum with a silent language she almost understood. They depicted celestial bodies, intricate star maps, and figures that were neither human nor animal, but something in between, beings of light and shadow, interacting with cosmic phenomena. Aura's voice broke the silence, softer now, almost reverent. Sensors detecting anomalous energy signatures, highly stable, coherent energy source at increasing depth, origin unknown. The air grew warmer, carrying a faint, resonating hum. It wasn't an oppressive heat, but a comforting warmth, like being wrapped in a soft blanket. The glyphs on the walls grew denser, more complex, telling a story in light. She saw depictions of the shimmering veil they had traversed, shown not as a barrier, but as a gateway, a pathway. She saw images of this very planet, Lyra 7 Beta, depicted as a beacon, a heart. And she saw the circlet, identical to the one on her brow, worn by the luminous figures. These beings, she realized, were the creators of the circlet, the architects of this incredible journey. They were the ancients she had sought. They were not gone, perhaps, but transformed, or awaiting. The spiraling path finally opened into a vast chamber. The chamber was immense, a cavern carved from the living rock of the planet, yet it felt less like a natural formation, and more like a carefully designed space. The walls, ceiling and floor were all of the same dark, reflective obsidian, but here they were imbued with an even greater density of glowing glyphs, creating a swirling galaxy of light within the earth. At the center of the chamber, suspended in mid-air, was a colossal crystalline structure. It wasn't a single crystal, but a complex lattice of interweaving, impossibly thin strands of light, forming a shimmering, multifaceted polyhedron that pulsed with an inner light, casting shifting colors across the obsidian walls. It was breathtaking, a masterpiece of natural engineering or unimaginable technology. The hum was louder here, a symphony of gentle vibrations that resonated through her very bones. It felt like the core of the planet was singing. As she stepped fully into the chamber, the circlet on her brow flared, its light merging with the light of the central crystal. And then, a whisper. Not an audible sound, but a thought, a feeling, a resonance that echoed directly in her mind. "Welcome, weaver of paths." "Oi!" she gasped, stumbling back a step. The voice was ancient, vast, yet gentle. It wasn't a single voice, but a chorus, a multitude of consciousnesses, speaking as one. "You have returned. The circlet has guided you, as it has guided others before you, and will guide others after." "When? Who are you?" she whispered, her voice feeling impossibly small in the grand chamber. "Where are the echoes? The keepers. The consciousness that seeded the stars. We are the Lyra. And you are one of us, a descendant of the first." "Myung-Hermand." The words resonated with a profound truth she felt deep in her soul. It wasn't just a journey to a planet, it was a homecoming. The central crystal pulsed, and within its shimmering depths, images began to form. Not projections, but true, living memories, shimmering like heat haze. She saw glimpses of ancient civilizations, not on Lyra 7 Beta, but across countless galaxies, connected by shimmering veils, by circlets. She saw beings of pure energy, of light, of crystalline forms, all moving with a shared purpose. She saw the shimmering veil not as a random anomaly, but as a deliberate creation, a network of cosmic pathways connecting disparate parts of the universe maintained by these Lyra beings. And the circlets? They weren't just keys, they were fragments of the Lyra consciousness, imbued with their knowledge and their purpose, meant to awaken and guide those who were ready. The images showed a vast, intricate network, a cosmic web of communication and migration, maintained for eons. But then, a subtle shift in the visions. A growing darkness, a slow fading of the lights, a disruption in the cosmic pathways. The shimmering veils flickered, some going dark. The network was failing. The balance shifts, the collective voice whispered in her mind. The pathways fade. The great silence approaches. We have waited. We have prepared. But our time is insane. Limited in this form. The crystal pulsed with a new urgency. You were chosen. Your lineage, awakened by the circlet, carries the spark required to mend what is broken. To relight the paths. To weave the cosmos anew. Her mind reeled. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a colossal burden, a cosmic responsibility. She, a lone explorer, was being asked to mend the fabric of the universe. Not alone, the voice corrected gently, sensing her doubt. The circlet is not merely a guide, it is a tool. A conduit. It holds a fraction of our collective knowledge, our power. It is your first thread. Others will awaken. Others will join the weaving. Dasa? She looked at her hand, then at the circlet on her brow, glowing with an inner fire. It felt heavier now, imbued with a new significance. The images in the crystal shifted again, focusing on a single point, a star map shimmering with countless light dots, many of them dimming, winking out. But one cluster, far off in a distant corner of the map, glowed with a faint, persistent light. There are other anchors, other circlets, other weavers. They wait for the signal. For the first thread. The implication was clear, her journey wasn't over. It had just begun. Lyra 7 Beta was not the final destination, but a starting point, a cosmic library, a place of awakening. She felt a surge of adrenaline, mixed with a profound sense of destiny. The weight of responsibility was immense, but so was the wonder. To be part of something so ancient, so vast, so vital. What do I do? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet filled with a newfound resolve. How do I relight the paths? The central crystal pulsed, and a new image coalesced within its depths, a vast, intricate diagram of energy flows, of cosmic currents, of shimmering veils reforming and re-establishing connections. It was like looking at the blueprint of the universe itself, humming with an unimaginable complexity. You must learn. You must connect. You must become the loom. Then, the images faded, the light within the crystal dimmed slightly, and the chorus of voices softened, becoming a faint, continuous hum. The circlet on her brow, however, remained brightly lit, resonating with the residual energy of the chamber, and with the newly downloaded knowledge that now pulsed within her own mind. It felt as though 1,000 years of history, of cosmic engineering, of sentient starlight, had just been poured into her consciousness. It wasn't overwhelming, but rather felt like an expansion, an awakening of dormant faculties. She understood now. The circlet was not just a key to a physical location, but a key to a new way of perceiving the universe, a new way of interacting with its very fabric. It was a tool, yes, but also a teacher, a partner. Her gaze fell upon one of the glowing glyphs on the chamber wall, a depiction of a single figure, very much like herself, standing at the nexus of several shimmering pathways, hands outstretched, weaving threads of light between them. It was a prophecy, a guide, a mirror. The hum of the chamber was a lullaby now, a promise of what was to come. She was no longer just an explorer, she was a conduit, a guardian, a weaver. The journey to Lyra 7 Beta had ended, but a far grander journey, one that spanned galaxies and eons, had just begun. Her ship, the Stardust Wanderer, waited above, no longer just a vessel for exploration, but a tool for cosmic mending. The universe was calling, and she, with the circlet humming on her brow and the Lyra's whispers in her mind, was finally ready to answer. The Stardust Wanderer hung silently in Lyra 7 Beta's orbit, a familiar anchor in an alien sky. But as Alara ascended the ship's ramp, the vessel felt different. No longer merely a shell of metal and circuit, it hummed with a nascent awareness, a subtle resonance that mirrored the circlet on her brow. The Lyra's whispers, once a gentle suggestion, now felt like a deep, flowing river within her mind, guiding her steps, anticipating her needs. Inside, the ship's usually utilitarian bridge had softened. The sharp edges of consoles seemed less rigid, the holographic displays shimmered with an organic warmth. A faint, almost imperceptible light pulsed from the central command chair, inviting her. As she settled into it, the chair conformed to her body, not with mechanical precision, but with a living embrace. The circlet pulsed, and the Stardust Wanderer responded, its energy core thrumming in a new, deeper register. "We are ready," the Lyra whispered, a chorus of ancient voices now coalesced into a singular, yet vast consciousness within her. "The song requires tending. There are lost notes, fractured melodies, silent stanzas awaiting our touch." Alara closed her eyes, letting the universe unfold before her internal vision. The Lyra showed her not maps or star charts, but a tapestry of light and shadow, a cosmic symphony playing out across untold dimensions. She saw vibrant, singing galaxies, and then, discordant blips, areas of static, places where the music faltered or died. Her first mission, the Lyra indicated, lay in a distant arm of their own galaxy, a stellar nursery known as the Veiled Nebulae, where a peculiar silence had fallen. "The Veiled Nebulae," Alara murmured, the words feeling ancient on her tongue. "What has happened there?" "A thread has frayed," the Lyra replied. "A nascent sentience woven into the very fabric of the nebulae has lost its way. It is withdrawing, dimming. Without intervention, it will unravel, taking with it the potential for a billion future stars, a symphony unplayed." The Stardust Wanderer detached from Lyra 7 Beta's orbit with a grace Alara had never known it possessed. It didn't just warp, it flowed through space, bending reality around itself like water. The journey was less a transit, and more an immersion into the cosmic stream. Time became fluid, space a malleable canvas. Alara felt connected to every particle, every wave, every whisper of the universe rushing past. She wasn't just observing it, she was part of its current. When they arrived at the Veiled Nebulae, the silence was palpable. It wasn't just an absence of sound, it was an absence of life, of potential. Where there should have been the vibrant blues and purples of gas and dust, the nascent glows of protostars, there was only a dull, oppressive grey, a cosmic desolation. The nebulae, once a swirling canvas of creation, now looked like a forgotten, dust-covered painting. Alara guided the Stardust Wanderer deeper, the ship's systems acting as extensions of her own senses. The circlet on her brow pulsed rhythmically, a gentle beacon in the oppressive gloom. The Lyra's whispers intensified, directing her towards the heart of the silence. There, nestled amidst the dying gas clouds, was a colossal, shimmering web of pure energy, the nascent sentience. It was vast beyond comprehension, yet fragile, its threads flickering, its light dimming, like a dying ember. It wasn't a creature in any conventional sense, but a consciousness born of stardust and stellar winds, a collective soul of the nebulae itself. "It is afraid," the Lyra communicated, projecting images of cosmic trauma into Alara's mind. Supernovae tearing through its delicate structure, aggressive stellar winds eroding its form, the sheer indifferent vastness of the cosmos overwhelming its budding awareness. It leaves itself alone, vulnerable. It is retreating into itself, pulling its essence inward, extinguishing its own light. Alara felt a profound ache in her chest, a surge of empathy for this colossal, innocent being. How terrifying it must be, to be born of such grandeur, and yet feel such existential dread. This wasn't a physical repair. It was an emotional one, a cosmic reassurance. "How do we help it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. "We sing to it," the lyra responded. "We remind it of its purpose, its connection to the greater song. We show it is not alone." Elara closed her eyes again, focusing not on the external spectacle, but on the internal connection. The circlet glowed brighter, and a soft resonant hum emanated from her, spreading through the Stardust Wanderer, and then outward into the nebulae. It wasn't a sound, not really, but a vibration, a frequency that resonated with the very essence of the dying sentience. She pictured the universe not as a cold, empty void, but as a vast interconnected web of life and energy. She projected warmth, reassurance, the profound beauty of creation, the joy of existence. The lyra amplified her intent, weaving her human emotions, her wonder, her compassion, her unwavering belief in life, into a cosmic lullaby. It was a slow, arduous process. For what felt like days or perhaps weeks in conventional time, Elara poured her essence into the nebulae. She felt the sentience's fear, its pain, its deep-seated loneliness. She countered it with images of collaboration, of cosmic dance, of the intricate balance that allowed stars to be born and worlds to thrive. She showed it the grandeur of its own design, the billions of futures it held within its grasp. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the grey began to recede. A faint pearlescent shimmer returned to the nebulae's threads. A whisper of starlight, a tiny protostar, flickered into existence in the distance. Then another, and another. The vast web of energy began to pulse with a faint, steady beat. The circlet on Elara's brow thrummed with newfound power, and the lyra's whispers swelled with triumph. It awakens, it remembers its song. A wave of profound gratitude washed over Elara, not just from the lyra, but from the awakening sentience itself. It wasn't a mental communication, but a feeling, a deep resonance of peace and recognition. The nebulae bloomed around the Stardust Wanderer, painting the void with breathtaking hues of violet, gold, and sapphire. The silence was gone, replaced by the gentle, harmonious hum of nascent creation, a melody unique to this stellar nursery, now fully rejoined to the universe's grand symphony. Elara leaned back in the command chair, utterly exhausted but profoundly fulfilled. Her first act of cosmic mending was complete. She had not repaired a broken machine or healed a physical wound. She had rekindled hope, whispered courage into the heart of a cosmic entity. She had woven a new thread into the fabric of creation. The journey continued. The lyra guided her to forgotten systems where ancient civilizations had left behind psychic scars on their homeworlds, ripples of despair that echoed across millennia. Elara would land the Stardust Wanderer, walk among the spectral ruins, and with the circlet humming, absorb the echoes, transform them, and release them as notes of peace and remembrance, allowing the worlds to finally heal and move forward. She visited distant, isolated pockets of reality, where the very laws of physics had begun to unravel, threatening to tear holes in the cosmic tapestry. Here, her work was more delicate, more precise. Guided by the lyra's intricate knowledge of universal constants, she would become a living conduit, allowing the fundamental forces to flow through her, recalibrating the cosmic balance, mending the very fabric of spacetime. These missions left her drained, the strain on her human form immense, but each success filled her with an unparalleled sense of purpose. Not all challenges were so abstract. On one occasion, the lyra directed her to a binary star system, on the verge of collapsing into a rogue black hole, not through natural processes, but due to an ancient failed stellar engineering project by a long-extinct race. The gravitational distortions were immense, threatening to tear apart a delicate planetary nebula filled with unique, crystalline life forms. As the Stardust Wanderer approached, the ship bucked and groaned, its advanced shielding barely holding. Elara felt the immense pressures, the tearing forces, as if they were acting directly upon her own body. The lyra's whispers were urgent, almost frantic. The core, the ancient mechanism, it is failing catastrophically. This wasn't a matter of empathy or song, it was a matter of intervention. The circuit glowed with fierce intensity, projecting complex schematics and energy signatures into her mind. She saw the intricate web of forgotten technology, the delicate balance that had been maintained for eons, now failing. "I need to go closer," Elara said, her voice firm despite the tremor in the ship. "To the core of the distortion. The risk is extreme," the Lyra warned. "Your human form is not designed for such stresses. It could shatter you. But it's the only way, isn't it?" She already knew the answer. The Lyra had guided her to this point, knowing her capacity for courage. Donning a specialized gravsuit enhanced by the Stardust Wanderer's newly integrated systems, Elara prepared for an evade air. The airlock hissed open, revealing a maelstrom of distorted light and tearing space. The binary stars, usually a majestic dance, now spiraled in a chaotic death waltz. She launched herself from the ship, the tethers of the Stardust Wanderer straining to hold her. The circlet pulsed furiously, feeding her real-time data, shielding her mind from the sensory overload of a collapsing star system. She was navigating a storm of gravity, light, and raw energy. The ancient mechanism was a colossal, crystalline structure, half buried in the mantle of one of the stars, now cracking under the immense pressure. It pulsed erratically, its energy field flickering. The Lyra directed her hand, guiding her fingers over the glowing conduits, revealing patterns, sequences, subtle energy flows invisible to the naked eye. It was a cosmic puzzle, a timed repair under impossible conditions. She had to realign the energy relays, reroute the failing conduits, and stabilize the core matrix, all while the universe threatened to rip her limb from limb. Sweat beaded on her brow inside her helmet. Her muscles screamed from the strain of fighting the gravitational pull. Doubt, cold and sharp, tried to pierce her resolve. What if she failed? The countless crystalline lives, the entire planetary nebula, would be consumed. "Breathe," the Lyra whispered, a calming presence in the storm. "Trust the song, trust yourself." Elara focused, letting her human intuition, honed by countless hours of navigating complex alien tech, merge with the Lyra's ancient wisdom. She touched a conduit, feeling the raw power surge through her suit, through her very being. A flicker of light, a hum of energy, as she rerouted the flow. Then, another. And another. The circlet burned on her forehead, an extension of her will, of the Lyra's power. She wasn't just fixing a machine, she was recomposing a cosmic melody, bringing discordant notes back into harmony. With a final desperate push, she slammed her hand against a central crystal, pouring every ounce of her remaining energy, her focus, her very being into it. A blinding flash erupted from the mechanism. For a terrifying moment, Elara thought she had failed, that she had accelerated the collapse. But then, a profound stillness settled over the system. The chaotic tearing eased. The binary stars, though still close, began to stabilize their orbit, their rotation slowing, their light calming. The black hole's nascent maw receded, its hunger sated, for now. Elara hung limp in space, utterly spent, her body trembling, her mind a dizzying void. The Lyra's whispers were soft, gentle, filled with immense pride. "You have mended a broken heart, Elara. You have saved a world." She was pulled back into the Stardust Wanderer, her gravsuit heavy with the residue of cosmic forces. As the ship's medbay systems gently ministered to her exhausted body, she gazed out at the now calm binary system, at the vibrant crystalline nebula that shimmered with renewed life. She had faced the raw power of the universe, and, with the Lyra as her guide and partner, had bent it back towards harmony. Eons passed, or so it felt. Her human concept of time blurred, stretched, and reformed around the vastness of her tasks. She witnessed the birth of stars, the slow, majestic dance of galaxies, the rise and fall of countless civilizations. She was there to soothe the dying embers of ancient suns, to whisper encouragement to species taking their first steps into the cosmos, to untangle the cosmic misunderstandings that sometimes led to galactic discord. The Stardust Wanderer became less a ship, and more an extension of Elara herself, a living entity woven from stardust and purpose. Its hull shimmered with the light of 1,000 nebulae it had traversed. Its systems resonated with the echoes of ancient songs it had helped rekindle. It was a beacon of hope in the vast, indifferent dark. Elara, too, was transformed. Her eyes held the depth of nebulae, her movements carried the grace of celestial bodies. The circlet was no longer just an artifact on her brow, it was a part of her, an organic extension of her consciousness. She was no longer just an explorer from a blue world, she was a true conduit, a guardian, a weaver, her humanity now a unique and essential component of the Lyra's cosmic consciousness. Her empathy, her capacity for wonder and love, her ability to doubt, and then to overcome. These were the very things that allowed the Lyra to connect, to commune in ways pure cosmic energy never could. There came a point, after countless cycles, when the universe seemed to hum with a more profound harmony. The discordances were fewer, the silences less frequent. The song of creation, while never static, flowed with a newfound clarity, a vibrant energy. The Lyra's whispers, once a guiding force, now felt like a gentle, contented presence, a shared peace. The threads are strong, the lyre communicated, its voice resonating with an ancient satisfaction. The tapestry is whole, for now. Ilara understood. The universe was a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, constantly facing new challenges. Her work, their work, was never truly finished. But a chapter was ending. The urgent need for mending had subsided. She guided the Stardust wanderer to a quiet, beautiful corner of the cosmos, a newly formed planetary system, bathed in the warm light of a young, stable star. There, on a verdant world teeming with nascent life, she found a secluded valley, lush and vibrant. She stepped out of the Stardust wanderer one last time, the circlet still glowing softly on her brow. The ship, her steadfast companion through eons, settled silently behind her, its light dimming, its engines humming a soft farewell lullaby. It was not abandonment, but a gentle repose. Ilara walked to a crystalline pool, its waters shimmering under the alien sun. She knelt, looking at her reflection. She saw not the young explorer who had left Earth so long ago, but a being of profound wisdom and serene power, her features softened by ons of compassion, her eyes reflecting the starlight she had mended. With a deep, contented sigh, she reached up and gently removed the circlet from her brow. As it left her skin, a soft, golden light emanated from it, dancing in the air, then settling into the waters of the pool. The Lyra's consciousness, so long intertwined with hers, flowed into the circlet, transforming it into a radiant, pulsating beacon at the bottom of the pool. "We are here now," the Lyra whispered, its voice no longer solely within her mind, but shimmering from the pool, echoing through the valley, touching the very leaves on the trees. A guardian, a beacon, a song of remembrance, for the next to find us, for the next to listen. Ilara smiled, a true, peaceful smile that reached her starlight eyes. She felt the vastness of the cosmos within her, but also the comforting presence of the earth, her home, her origin. She was no longer defined by a mission, but by the peace she had helped create. She lay down on the soft, mossy earth beside the pool, feeling the gentle rhythm of the young planet beneath her. The stars began to appear in the twilight sky, shimmering with the harmony she helped weave. The air was filled with the chirping of unseen creatures, a lullaby of a world at peace. Her journey had ended. But the echoes of her song, the whispers of the Lyra, would ripple through the universe forever. And as she closed her eyes, drifting into a sleep woven from starlight and cosmic peace, she knew that somewhere, in the endless tapestry of galaxies, the universe would continue to sing, forever mended by the touch of a human heart and the wisdom of an ancient light. The greatest journey of all, the journey of harmony, continued on endlessly, beautifully.